Hello there guys, this is Christy Lewis from Dostoevsky in Space, and today I'm going to be talking about what I read in December and what I'm planning to read in January, also known as Flannery of January. So let's jump into it. I read some things for sure, but I didn't read that much this month, and I don't have a huge TBR for next month, so this shouldn't be very long. But, so first of all, Kevin and I finished The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes, and we listened to this on audiobook, and Kevin loved it. I didn't think he was going to want to listen to the rest of the trilogy, but as soon as we finished it, he was like, okay, yeah, I definitely want to. So he is hooked, and actually the second book is winning me over a little bit more. It's definitely still not something that I would have listened to on my own, but I'm happy to be discovering Kevin's book tastes. That's really fun. So, he's one of those I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's this phenomenon where boys who liked to read when they were kids stop reading at like a certain age, like somewhere around puberty, and they don't pick it back up again until much later in their lives. And I feel like that's what's happening with Kevin, at least with the discovery of audiobooks. He's really enjoying audiobooks. So time will tell if he starts picking up physical books as well. But we just do so much driving for my health that it's like really fun to have a story on the go. So we revisited a bunch of both of his childhood favorites and then some of mine that were curated to his tastes that I loved as well. And so this one I heard about through my work because I find out about new releases all the time through my job. I just don't read them all the time because I'm not really a new release tech person. But regardless, this was fun. We enjoyed reading it together. Actually, I was bored stiff the whole time, but I was enjoying him enjoying it. So this is about a girl named Avery who is randomly made into the heir of this vast fortune of the guy who she's never even heard of. There's this guy she's never even heard of who leaves all of his stuff to her in his will, even though he has four grandsons, I think, and other family that he could have left it to, but he leaves it to her, and it's really, the book is kind of figuring out why he left it to her, who she is to him, and I think the trilogy in general is about that. And so in order to get this fortune, she has to live in the mansion, the Hawthorne Mansion it's called, with the three grandsons and some other people, none of whom are too happy about her presence there or her getting their money. And there's a bunch of like tricks and traps that she has to get through, and I think it's kind of the puzzly element that Kevin's really enjoying. And I think I remember hearing Krista from Books and Jams talk about this a lot, and I thought, ooh, I put it on my list for something that Kevin and I might want to read. And then when I actually studied up on it for a work video, I was like, definitely, Kevin's gonna like this one, I think. So instantly when I described it to him, he was like, yeah, that sounds fun. So that's always exciting. He tends to know from the plot based on whether he's going to enjoy it or not, because it interests him or it doesn't. Not always. Sometimes the characters will interest him beyond the plot, or like with the Hunger Games or Harry Potter, going to the rides of the Harry Potter land and watching the Hunger Games movies were enough to make him want to listen to the books. So we're going to try out the Westing game next, I think, after this trilogy, which probably also won't be for me. But that's okay. That's okay. It's fine. I will listen to a book even if it's not my favorite book, just because I enjoy listening to books. So, although personally I wouldn't finish it, but you know what I'm saying. Next, Jane Eyre, I finished. This took me forever to finish because I ended up taking a break. So this, I don't think I ever actually physically read this whole book before. So this was refreshing because it's been a favorite of mine for a long time. And I knew that the writing was good, but I must have listened to it partially every other time that I read it. The first time I ever read it, I listened to it. And it was actually one of the first classics that I read outside of school. I listened to it on my way home to and from work when I was mostly a fantasy and sci-fi young adult reader at the time, and I loved Jane Eyre. I loved it on audiobook. It was great. So, the writing was really good. I definitely got some really fun quotes from it about like persistence and how we are made to persist even when we're suffering. Some really good quotes like that. I posted one on Instagram, I think. And I just feel like the last maybe fifth or quarter of it, I definitely struggled. Something about the last fifth or quarter, I was like, just not really as here for it. But that's okay. I think it was still a really great book. I'm glad that I finished it. I sort of had lost interest, but I kept pushing on because I was like, you know, I really want to physically read this at least once, like the whole thing. And I wanted to do a review of it, which we'll see. We'll see if that happens. It's been a while since I really reviewed something, so I want to do that sometime soon. But sometimes projects like that take a lot of time and energy, and I just don't have it at the moment. So, okay, next, A Door in the Wall by Marguerite de Angelo. This I first heard of from Kate Howe, and then I was talking to Tiffany from Beautiful Minutia, and she and her daughter loved it. And I was like, okay, cool, okay, I'm reading it. And I loved it too. It was so good. It's following a boy living in plague-ridden London, and both of his parents are off on their own quests, and he is stuck at home. He's gotten sick with something. It's not, I don't think it's the plague that he gets sick with, but it's some very weakening illness, and he actually loses the use of his legs. And he's very grumpy and just like ornery, and he drives off his nurse, and so he's just alone, nobody's caring for him, and then a monk comes and cares for him and kind of tames him a little bit and shows him how to find his own place in the world even though he has a disability, and how to not have a chip on his shoulder, and how to relate to other people, and just like good truths about the world and living in this broken world. And I thought it was really, really good. It was good disability representation. I know some people feel like if there is a recovery from a disability, then it doesn't necessarily count, because a lot of times people with disabilities will have those disabilities for a long time or forever, for their whole lives. They might not go away, but still, even if this book does sort of fall into that category, but I thought it was really, really good anyways. So yeah, I loved it. And I probably would have put this one in my favorites of the year, but I finished it slightly after I made that video, so maybe I'll put it in next year's. Same with Attack on Titan, although I've only read volume 1 of that. That's the next thing I finished. It's a manga by Hajime Isayama, and this world is so well developed. I watched the first couple episodes of this with Casey from Lost in a Bookcase and Rich from Michael's Discord, who was like a Stormlong follower, and they both love it, and so they told me I had to try it, and I loved it too, the first couple episodes, but I wasn't able to continue watching with them on a weekly basis, so I just didn't continue with it for like, I don't know how long it's been, like a year or a year and a half, and so I finally picked up the manga, and it is so good, guys. The world building is so well developed. I forgot to really write down any description of what this is about, but it's about humans who have humans who have been driven inside the protection of 3 big, like, giant city walls that surround the remains of humanity, as far as they know anyways. As far as I know. That's all I know either. And outside there are these things called titans, which are giants, and they are carnivorous. They don't need to eat humans to survive, because as far as they know, there are no humans out there in the world, and yet these titans have been living there for like 100 years or something. But they just eat humans for fun. They're terrifying looking. The titans are. They have like tons of teeth, and I posted a picture on my Instagram, and so Alana asked, "Why does he have so many teeth?" I was like, "It's because he eats humans." So they're very scary. They're like horror-esque, but they immediately grabbed me. I was just so gripped by just like the visuals of the titans. It's incredible. The illustrations are incredible. This book is very gory though, which is why I don't know how I'm going to fit it into my reading, because I don't know if I really want to read a manga series during my main dedicated reading time, because that's usually, I save that time for more difficult stories or books that I'm reading. Like, I have so much nonfiction I want to read, and usually my read-along books that I'm reading are in my dedicated reading time before I get sleepy, before I need to let myself get sleepy, when my brain is still somewhat active. Usually I relegate manga to the right before bed type of relaxed reading, and this was like too real. Like, it's intense. There's definitely a lot of horror elements with the humans being eaten and stuff, which you warned me about. Thank you, Yoon. I was prepared for it. So it's a little too real for me to make it a relaxing manga, so I don't even know if I can really continue. I think it might give me nightmares if I continued reading it at bedtime. So we'll have to see if I can really fit it in. Because, yeah, like I said, manga, for me, it has to be pretty relaxing for me to be reading it. So, we'll see what happens. And that's all that I finished. I am reading lots of other things. I'm reading, like, some books of the Bible, of course, always. I don't always mention those, but I want to, in 2023, start mentioning the books of the Bible that I read. And I read some of Demons as well this month. But I had to let my co-host know that I just am not finding time at the moment to read something like that heavy, like Demons, and that takes that much work, at least not fast enough. I could read like a couple pages every day, but I was trying to take it out of Tristan in the Classics video. He talked about, if you're a slow reader, just set aside like 30 minutes to read 10 pages a day, and I wasn't even reading 10 pages in 30 minutes. And anyway, it was too strenuous of reading for the time that I have at the moment to be reading. There are some days when I do have time during the day to read, but I'm usually reading like my Korean history book that I'm still trying to finish, or my Bible, or, you know, things like that. So I'm just not finding the time to read a really challenging classic at the moment. I'm just so busy right now with PT and work. I know I keep saying that, I sound like a broken record, but like I'm so busy right now with PT and work. That's why I'm not editing these videos. So I just do not have the time right now to read Demons because, and that reminds me, a lot of times when I have free time, I'm working on Korean, which I'm making a lot of progress on. I think I'm going to get to an intermediate level maybe by the end of 2023. Which is incredible because I work on it a lot, and because it actually takes less focus for me to work on Korean, and that's why it's a good fit for right now, because I can do it even, you know, when I've been distracted all day with work and PT, and I may not be feeling good, and, you know, all this stuff. I've started a Bible study that's probably going to be meeting most every week now. And so these are all things that I'm going to prioritize over reading, of course. And unless I stop prioritizing language learning, I'm not going to have as much time for reading giant classics like Demons that are such a challenge. So that was a really hard realization for me to realize that classics have, at least the really long, challenging ones have kind of taken a back seat for me for now. That won't be the case for forever, I'm sure it won't. But at the moment, I'm just really enjoying language learning and being busy with work and PT. So anyways, so unfortunately, I'm not really continuing with Demons at the moment, even though it's great. I think it's wonderful. I love it. I think it's funny, but it was just really draining me in a way that I wasn't sleeping. I was actually so anxious about it that I wasn't sleeping, which was how I knew it was too much, because I sleep great now, usually, and I'm not willing to give that up. I like sleep. This is great. I've never slept this well in my life. So as soon as I stopped sleeping well, I was like, this isn't gonna work. Yeah, but hopefully at some point I can do that. Maybe when I don't have anything else going on, reading-wise, then I can really sit down and read Demons. So, because I wanted to finish, like, The Name of the Rose and some other stuff that I was working on. And I was already doing the Advent book. That was really what was taking up my reading time as well, was I had the Advent book, The Man Born to be King. So if I only had Demons going on, then I could probably get to it. But I can't do that as well as the Advent book. So anyways, those are my December wrap-up details. So for January, I'll just go with this one first because it's on tap. Emma's Bookish Kingdom book club is going to be reading The Hobbit, which I'm thrilled about because I have this illustrated one that I got in a little free library, and I've been wanting to read this forever. Actually, the last time I read The Hobbit, the writing style, I was just like not that impressed, and I was like, I'm probably never going to read this again. But honestly, then I found this book, and now I want to read it again. Go figure. So I'm gonna give it a try. The Hobbit was like one of my favorite books and movies as a kid, and so it'll be fun to revisit it, I think. And I'm hoping my mom will join me for this one. She's been reading The Man Born to be King with me and messaging me when she reads it, and it's been so fun to have her along for read-along. So I'm hoping maybe she'll join us for this, because she's the one who introduced me to The Lord of the Rings. Which, this is why I was a fantasy reader for so long, growing up and everything. And then Wise Blood, which is somewhere, I don't know where I put it, that is going to be the group read for flanneryojanuary. I don't know if I'm going to read that really or not. I'm going to try it, but it might be too much for me right now. It just might be. It's short, but it's so intense. It's literally the most intense book I've ever read. So, and that one is following a preacher of Antichrist, basically. He's basically preaching against Christ because he's preaching the Church of No Christ, I think is what it's called. And Flannery O'Connor has a strange way of saving her characters. Like, she sure gives them a chance, you know, to find salvation, and it's usually prior to a violent and bloody death due to their own idiocy. And it's just very intense to watch. I know a lot of people find her very funny and hilarious, and I think she had such a wonderful sense of humor, but to me it comes across better in her letters and in her prayer journal than in her stories. To me, I just find her stories mostly, like, horrifying. Her short stories, though, I can take it. I can take the doses of horror in her short stories, which is why I love them. Her novels are a little intense for me. But that's going to be our group book, and it's definitely worth checking out if you've tried Flannery O'Connor and found her to your taste, because really her books are more of the same. So I will be focusing, though, on The Habit of Being. And I know that Tiffany and also Victoria might be reading this as well. So that's exciting. This one's from Noah. Noah also sent me Wise Blood, and this. He's so sweet. I just love Noah. Who doesn't love Noah, honestly? So Noah's going to be having the live streams over on his channel. And I cannot wait to read this. Again, more of it. Because I read a little over 100 pages last flanneryojanuary, and it was wonderful. So, yeah. Please join me. I can't wait. And let's see, what else do I have here? Oh, and Tom's graphic novel. Maybe I'll focus on that from the very beginning of the month so that I can really get to it. Tom from LA Books, if you hadn't heard, just published a graphic novel. And I am so excited to get to it. He sent me a review copy. What's it called? I'm not supposed to be editing this video. This is supposed to be an unedited video, and I don't know what the book is called. I'm so sorry, Tom. I will have it, though, linked down below. Definitely check it out. I read another graphic novel of his, and it was really good. It was so good. I'll link that one down below, too. I talked about that as well on my channel when it came out. So definitely, Tom's stuff is worth it. Please check it out. And that's all I have to say for this month, and next month. So let me know what your favorite book from December was, and what you're planning to read in January. Tell me if you're joining us for flanneryojanuary, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.